This is the KTM 790 Duke, and it can do things like this, or even this. But how will it perform as a normal everyday commuter? Well, I had it for a couple of days and I'm here to tell you all about KTM's new 790 Duke. KTM have got a range of naked street bikes and they're all called Dukes. You have the Duke 390, the Duke 690, the Duke 1290. But this is unlike all of them. Where all the other Dukes share a trellis frame, this bike does not have that. But let's start at the beginning. As I said, it's unlike all the other Dukes. You either had a single cylinder Duke or the V-twin 1290, whereas this thing has now got a parallel twin engine in that produces around about 105 horsepower. It is a phenomenal machine, and KTM called it the scalpel. The main premise of this bike is that you can have a track bike that you can use on the track and go crazy on the track and then come off the track and just ride to work with. I challenge any motorcyclist that can take this bike, start it up, go 60 km an hour in town, right up to the highway, and then maintain a highway speed of 120, get off the highway and still maintain 60. You simply cannot do it with this bike. The power delivery, the way the bike runs, the way you sit on this bike, it is just impossible. You just have to go fast, you just have to ride it hard. And that is what I think makes the Duke 790 so special. It can go from a track to normal everyday use, but hell, it's difficult. There are quite a few things that I have to point out on the Duke 790 that does set it apart from its siblings. First of all, there's a hydraulic brake like you would expect, but this side has still got a cable. It's got a cable clutch, and although this is a cable clutch, this bike is fitted with a quick shifter up and down. At the launch of the bike, this bike was launched at Kyalami and we rode it at night. Fantastic headlight, and you could actually help yourself around the track at night. Although I must admit, when you brake hard for a corner, the light tends to dip and then the corner disappears. So it was a terrifying thought. But then I rode it as a normal commuter, and even there the name Scalpel fits perfectly. This bike goes through traffic like nothing else. It's slick, it's powerful, and you can really slice your way through traffic on this bike. You'll notice at the front it's got dual discs, and they are KTM units, they are not Brembo units, and that is all to save costs. As part of KTM's mission to make this bike as compact as possible, they have included the 799cc parallel twin engine as a stressed member on the frame. Unlike the trellis frames from the 1290 and even the 390 Duke that has a trellis frame, this one has a proper steel frame with the engine mounted to it as a stressed member. It generates its 105 horsepower at about 9,000 revs, and with two balances shafts, this bike is supremely smooth. Other design elements of this bike is this beautifully crafted exhaust pipe. Now, in the original prototype, this exhaust pipe was going to exit under the seat, but unfortunately the Euro 4 rules came into play, and of course they had to fit things like number plates and indicator stalks, so it came out there. Not a bad idea. It's still got the same design as the original prototype, and it just looks fantastic and it sounds brilliant. Another feature is that these vents here actually serve a purpose. The airbox for this bike is located under the seat, and this adds to some more air intakes. If you ride a KTM, you'll recognize this LCD. This is LCD used on most of the bikes, and it is fairly comprehensive amount of information. At the bottom of the screen you can set up to 4 custom functions that you want to display. In this case I have the time, the outside temperature, the trip meter and the range, but this is a track bike, and KTM have got this in the ride mode. Right at the bottom you'll see track mode. In track mode you can select the throttle response, and you can tell it, do you really want to wheelie or don't you want to wheelie? It has got launch control, and I am nowhere near a track, so I am just going to say I'm going to leave the track now, and that'll put it back into this mode, and I can just select sport mode. The KTM 790 Duke is by far the closest I've come to the perfect bike, because it handles well on a track. I've been around Kyalami and on Red Star on this. It's phenomenal. In town as a commuter, absolutely fantastic. I've been around a track, the name Scalpel applies. I've been around town, the name Scalpel applies. But when you go on the open road, that seat is going to carve your backside up a bit. But other than that, I simply cannot fault this bike. It is that good.